A man describes his biggest and deepest fear as standing still. A woman is beside him, but he mainly addresses someone else, whom we do not see. What will happen then, once he's still there? Dread grasps his entire being every time he even attempts to wrap his head around this matter. With nowhere to go, and nothing more to achieve and strive towards, he thinks he will lose all his humanity. The woman pitches in and asks him a very simple, but hard-hitting question. What would he do if his ever-encompassing motion and striving towards absolute happiness and self-knowing proved to be successful? That must be the end of his everlasting motion. But is he so afraid of standing still that he'll avoid being happy, only to have a reason to keep moving? The man reflects on it deeply. He has no immediate answer. In the next scene, he's waiting for her in a restaurant. He's neatly dressed and a little anxious. When she arrives, he smiles widely, and before she enters, she thinks about something. He doesn't have much time, though. He stands up and embraces her. They stay like this for a long time, hugging each other firmly. It's clear that this isn't an ordinary date. After being frozen like this for more than 10 seconds, the two sit down, and the man introduces a thought that came into his head. He has an idea. The way he articulates himself makes it clear how anxious he is. He puts down a piece of paper and a pen on the table. Each one can write anything she or he wants, and the other one has to do it, or they both have to do it, or it must happen somehow. The idea isn't very refined, obviously, but nonetheless, she likes it and goes with it. She goes first. It proves to be a little harder than she thought it would be. After a couple of attempts, she hands out the writing. We do not see what it is, but soon, both of them start a timer. They have 23 hours and 59 minutes to complete this task. Speaking of socks, the point of discussion changes drastically in the room where the two of them are sitting together. Now the girl mentions the smelly feet of her partner, and they all laugh, waiting to hear all kinds of embarrassing and intricate details about their intimate lives. Back to the date, the two are walking down the street. He gives her the signal that it is now his turn to put something on the piece of paper. While he writes, we see a cascade of emotions landing and fading on the face of the girl. Perhaps she's thinking that all of this is a mistake or a stupid, childish endeavor, but there's no way of knowing for sure what those emotions indicate. She's a little surprised when she sees what he wrote. He wants to hold hands for 5 minutes. We are taken back to the room, where he remembers the way he felt when he first met her. It wasn't a moment of overwhelming emotion. There was no tide of breathtaking love like in fairy tales. The feeling he got was much more grounded. Somehow, he was sure he wanted this person to be with him for the rest of his life. He just knew that it was her whose hand he wanted to hold. Back to the date, she goes with it of course, but this task somehow brings in the topic of discussions that are not suited for a happy, cheerful date. She asks him, why would he pick this task when he's leaving Berlin? Or why wouldn't he stay if he wants so badly to hold her hand? He has no immediate answer. He can only say that he doesn't want to stay in Berlin. She can stop or refuse to do it. They come up with a safe word in case anyone feels uncomfortable with the task. But she doesn't choose to use it now. Instead of holding hands, they talk about what it would be like when they see each other married and having kids. The girl says that she won't be angry at herself, knowing that she did everything to make him stay when it mattered. She holds some of her bitterness inside. In some sense, she's filled with indignation. Now it's clear that this is their last date. An enormous amount of weight is on their shoulders as they make their way through the park. 5 minutes pass, and she comes up with something much lighter to do. 600 feet is what the man reads on the paper. He laughs, turns around, and gallops away as she hops on his back. Like this, they make their way towards the lake and stop on the shore. An overwhelming urge to kiss her comes to him, and he leans closer. The girl is a little hesitant, but only for a millisecond. And so, everything that is so depressing about the occasion fades away abruptly, as they are reminded of what it was like to kiss each other passionately. Now, it's his turn to give her a task. He writes "surprise me" and gets a splash of water in his face. We are taken to the room scene, where the two describe love. After listing the ordinary characteristics of it, they come to the matter of dependence and stop there. It seems to be the topic that troubles them most. The conclusion is the following: love is a healthy kind of dependence. Back to the date, the girl suddenly decides that the floor is lava. He takes quick action and makes her do the same, but this playful thing is belittled by the next task she comes up with. She makes him steal the boat, and after a few nervous chuckles and anxious strategizing, they just go for it. In the middle of the lake, tomorrow fades away. She's reminded of what their relationship was like. They saw each other almost every day. It was one big date. But the thoughts are quickly scattered by a shore supervisor. He calls them back with scolds and threats, and so they paddle back and run away as quickly as possible, chuckling and giggling. Once they come out, suddenly they run into their friend. The episode becomes more cheerful as they hug each other and hide behind his back, but soon he asks them what they are doing, and all is changed. They are spending their last 24 hours. The friend is confused and extremely troubled. It seems like he already knew about the departure from Berlin, but he is still unable to wrap his head around it all. Why is their relationship ending so abruptly? The air fills up with awkwardness as she says that, if he wants to know why the relationship is ending, then he should ask her partner about it. She has nothing to do with it. The idea wasn't hers, she's just playing along. They quickly say goodbye and then try to get away from this situation as quickly as possible. It's a shame that it all went this way. Getting coughed at by the shore supervisor would have been much easier. We are taken back in time to the moment when everything changed in their relationship. They are together in their kitchen, starting to celebrate something. The occasion is extremely cheerful, and it seems like it's going to continue this way. From their conversation, we learn that in 4 weeks they are going to be separated for 1 year. He's living in New York to work on and attend his own exhibition, and he will be staying there for a year. This time frame is news for her. She didn't know that he would be gone for that long. She continues to congratulate him repeatedly, but this time her words don't come out as honest as before. 1 year of a long-term relationship isn't a joke. He thinks, however, that after a short period of time, she can go after him and live with him in New York, but she's not so sure about that. She needs to have something of her own, otherwise, she would explode in a city like New York. She'll be happy to visit him on vacation, though. Now they discuss the main tenets of a great relationship in the room. The girl is a little hesitant. She counts down a few characteristics that she thinks are the most important. But in the end, there's just too much stuff that works together to create a good relationship. The man, however, has one special skill in mind that people in relationships should master: negotiation. Back to the present time, they run into another of their friends on the street. There should be nothing special about this kind of meeting, but the friend is pregnant. All kinds of thoughts explode in the couple's heads as they congratulate her and listen to her boast about just how perfect it is to have a child. She continues about the great effect it has had on her relationship with her husband. All in all, she's over the moon, and the couple should feel happy for her. But in the end, they only pretend to be glad. Their relationship could have been like that. When we listen to them talk about having a child in the room, we learn that they don't really want to have a kid. They're better off without that enormous responsibility for now. But after encountering their pregnant friend during their last date, both disappear into their gloomy thoughts. He writes down the next task and hands it out to her. He wants to dance on the Devil's Hill. And so, even though she clearly isn't in a mood to keep on playing this childish game, she rolls with it. In the next scene, both are standing in a subway. She's wearing a red dress that she bought for a dance, but one glance is enough to see an enormous wall between them. They don't have access to each other anymore. The moment when they decide to stop playing this game is near. It all starts while traveling, when, out of nowhere, she comes out and reveals a secret she held onto for the duration of their entire relationship. It seems like she made out with one of their co-workers a year ago. She was extremely annoyed with her partner, always demanding to be in control and have full insight into her every step. After this sudden outburst, all hell gets loose. The disagreement breaks, and both start accusing each other of various mistakes. He's been controlling and frustrating, always in action and never resting, while she prefers to stay still, but still conforms to his way of living, only to accuse him and scold him afterwards. Even now she's here, playing this witless game, acting, and pretending to enjoy this celebration of the end. But in all truth, she can leave. After hearing this request, however, she says that there's another reason for her being here. She has something important to tell him. He cannot wait to hear it, but now is not the correct time. We are taken back in time once more. She's taking a bath, trying to relax after hearing about his departure, when the latter comes in. A sign of heavy thinking is on his face as he tells her that he would rather be alone for the first 3 or 4 months in New York. She doesn't answer immediately. A tough silence falls, and it's clear that she's ready to endure this blow too. She's ready to take it in and leave with it, but as it seems, he wants her to do the opposite. He's telling her this because he wants to make a decision together with her. He wants her to make him see how much she wants to make this relationship work. But instead, she only endures. And so, if it is like that, then she would like to split up. Silence falls once more. Perhaps even now, he wants her to show more emotion, but she remains tense and quiet. Perhaps she would still like to visit after a few months, but both know that that's not possible. Maybe if he decides to come back one day, they will meet again then. Both do not express what's happening inside their skin, but their expressions speak for themselves. Back in the present, on the subway platform, they resume their disagreement. He reminds her of the way he felt, always having to push her to do something when she becomes quickly emotional. She explains to him that she's different. She's not as restless and adventurous. She finds comfort in being alone, and in some kind of peaceful routine in which everything is as predictable as possible. And she has to be herself. In the end, however, she is afraid to lose him. And in trying so hard to keep her partner, she lost everything else but him. This strategy, however, clearly proved to be severely maladaptive. Now he's leaving too. There's nothing he can say against this. A hug is all he can offer. Their embrace goes on for what seems like an eternity. They get back on a subway train then. Before getting closer to their main destination, she comes up with the next task. They need a relief now, something light and positive, so she asks him to count down a few things he loves about her. She adds that he can just say a thing or two, but eventually he ends up telling her of a million things he loved and still loves. Gradually, his expressions change as he realizes more and more what he's about to lose. Then he kisses her once or twice, but she stops him. This is not the best place for passionate expressions. Once they discussed what they would feel like if their relationship came to an end, what would they say? And they guess right, there's no word or sentence that would convey their feelings sufficiently. Finally, away from the commotion of the city, they find solitude and quiet. And the fight they had seems far away as they kiss each other passionately. Now she feels that it's the right time to say the important news. She refuses to reveal it on the subway train. She's pregnant. She's been there for 4 months, and she's looking forward to it. She wants to keep it. The man in front of her is smitten, speechless, and frozen in place. There's no word that would express his amazement. Sadness and happiness are quarreling inside his skin as he embraces her and starts crying. In light of this news, the fact that it all went south in their relationship seems that much more sorrowful. But he looks forward to it too. This might be the turning point for them. Traveling the world, giving yourself the never-ending adventure of finding yourself, and plunging yourself into various kinds of experiences in all parts of the world seem to be the ultimate task of life. That's why he's leaving for New York, but now a thought appears in his head, and it is as convincing as ever. One can find everything he needs at home as well. With these thoughts, they arrive at the Devil's Mountain. Their mood has significantly changed. Sorrow and frustration seem far away as they slowly make their way towards the ceiling. There they will dance, but until then we are taken back into the room, where the two talk about the meaning of motion. Now the notion that journey doesn't necessarily mean traveling is put forward. The trees that have lived for a millennium haven't moved an inch, but nevertheless, they have seen everything. The same is applicable to humans as well. One can live life to the fullest by residing in one place. The rooftop, the cheerful atmosphere, and the wide view work together in the next scene to sink both into deep thoughts. This hill was artificially created, and perhaps this is the reason for his departure. He has so many real, significant things that he's leaving behind. The girl of her dreams, the child she's about to have, and the life of a father. And in the light of those things, everything that is waiting for him in New York seems ordinary and hollow. He approaches her, and they prepare for the dance. A couple of people are remaining on the sunny rooftop as the couple starts dancing. They realize immediately that they haven't danced enough through their relationship. It is a shame that the only instance they can remember is the time when both had too much to drink and started to throw bottles at each other. The seemingly inevitable separation is still looming over their heads, but now they are mocking it and laughing at it. There must be a great underlying sorrow to this kind of humor, but they do not show any sign of it. In the next scene, standing at the window overlooking the greenery and looking across the sky, he zones out for a while and thinks about his decision. He ponders over what he lost, while trying so hard to grasp something extremely futile. Flying to New York to meet innumerable inspirational people must unquestionably be great, but it cannot be better than what he has seemingly already lost. A single teardrop falls from his right eye, until she joins him and stares him deep in the eyes. When they head back towards the city, the day creeps more and more towards the end, and they feel it extremely well. The end is near, and tomorrow must seem hurtful, but none of them show it. Instead, both goof around while on the train and into the streets too. While walking along the Berlin Wall, they turn the floor into the lava far too many times. This must be their way of coping. We are taken back to the room, where they discuss the issue of trust. From the moment they saw each other, they knew that the other was the one. And this sense of immeasurable love came with a feeling of inexplicable trust. None of them thought about it, they just trusted each other from the very moment. And so, their relationship wasn't only a product of a conscious decision, but also a product of a once-in-a-lifetime connection. And perhaps it is true that during the last minutes of their final date, they should talk somewhere along the lines of the previous sentences, but instead they dance and forget that only 7 hours are remaining. After getting a pizza, they go home. There, they will sleep and wake up next to their favorite person for the last time. One of the ways to know if you love a person is to observe your feelings while waking up to them. While in a still subconscious state, you will feel enormous warmth and happiness while realizing that the person you love is still next to you. They both know this. And so, both are at the same time looking forward and afraid of that exact moment. No one knows which feeling may come after the initial, almost automatic delight of waking up to your loved one when you realize that it is the last time. When they do wake up next to each other for the last time, there's no way of knowing for sure what feelings are raging behind their expressions. But this is what they do. He suddenly realizes that it is all over, lays quietly with his eyes wide open, and, after a while, says he will stay. She turns around, taken aback by these words, thinking he probably means he will be staying in bed while she makes coffee, but she realizes that he wants to stay in Berlin. She looks him deep in the eyes, observes every inch of his face and expression, and suddenly urges him to go. She wants him to follow his dreams. Her words sound much more decisive, and he doesn't even try to protest. And he remains in bed, eyes still wide open, as she stands up to make some coffee.